Started. All right. Lord, help us to have a good interview. Thank you and praise you. Amen. All right. This is Lance Bennett with Freelance Ideal Consulting Services, also a principal at Calvary's Harvest Christian Academy. And I have here with me via audio Miss Cheryl Long, who was actually nominated and won the award for Teacher of the Year for Kemp Elementary. Man, I tell you what, it's a blessing and an honor to interview her. And we have a couple of questions just to kind of get a feel for who she is and how things have worked in her location, her and environment. So, Mrs. Cheryl, could you please introduce yourself before we get into the questioning?
I'm here, Lance.
Yes, ma'am. I said, go ahead and introduce yourself just for the interview, and then I'll go ahead and ask the questions.
I am Cheryl Long. I've been teaching at the current school that I'm at. This year's coming up on 6 years as a fourth grade math and science teacher. Previously taught at Christian Academy for 4 years, fifth grade, all content.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I just have a couple of quick questions, and then I'll let you go. I know you got a busy schedule, so we'll just get right into it. So, first question is, can you describe your experience with individualized education programs, aka IEPs, and how you ensure that they are tailored to meet the unique needs of each student?
Yes, my experience with that is because of the demographic and the type of school, the Title I school we serve. I currently have 17 students that are EIP served, and then we have about 20 that are non-served, and that's part of the issue possibly is that we don't have enough services for each child. But my interaction with it is that I service those students every day. I teach them in whole group. They get on grade level content, and then they break into small groups where you meet them where they are and try to grow them. From there, we use a lot of different strategies to do that, a lot of different programs to do that, but mostly it's going to be a small group with the teacher where you're asking questions, giving immediate feedback, and working very slowly with those students to make sure that they meet their small goals throughout the year. So we'll test at the beginning of the year to see exactly where they fall, and then mid-year to see if they're growing and how, at what pace, and then at the end of the year to see what the final outcome is, and that determines whether they stay in the program or not. If they've met their minimum goals and if they're making good progress, they'll probably come out of the EIP program and just go into just general education.
Outstanding. Well, that's amazing. So the second question is pretty. I guess it's kind of following up from the first, which is how do you collaborate with parents, the students, and other professionals to develop or implement and monitor the IEP effectively?
Oh, great question. So we meet with the parents every 6 weeks to just kind of give them a snapshot, of how their particular child is doing, how their child is doing in the program. If one is warranted, let's say if some students in VIP are C students, so they're passing the grade level, which is really good, but some that are really below, we need to meet as often as possible in order to change the plan, because the plan may not be working. Small group may not be sufficient, or there may be other underlying issues that are causing them not to grow at a pace that's necessary
And that makes
for a
sense.
school year.
I'm about to say, yeah,
And
that
so,
makes sense. I'm kind of when I do parent teacher sort of conferences, I make sure sort of like you, I'm not here to put the student on blast, more so just
oh
to kind of
no,
give an idea of where the student's at and how we can team up together as teacher and parent to get the desired goal, which
exactly.
is to get the best and the bright out of the student as well. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Because most of the times the parents may not know strategies. They may not know what other opportunities they have. Something as simple as watching TV with the captions on. Little things, playing games at home where it's not doesn't seem like they're learning, but those things help with the cognitive growth. So in school, we're doing a lot of intensive learning. So for them to go home and do more work, it's just counterproductive, especially for a student that's already struggling. Some of them are trying to make up 2 and 3 grade levels at a time, and that's a lot, even for the parent. So we just try to talk about small things they can do at home and what we're doing there at the school. Now we also meet with a team at the school, the EIP support, which in our school we have quite a bit. So we have an EIP teacher that pulls the students per content, and then we have a specialist that comes in, and then we also have therapists that meet with the students if their EIP calls for it. If they have more than just learning, maybe speech may be inhibited them from being able to read fluently, things like that. So everybody meets twice a year at the beginning of the year to go over previous year, where did they end, and what do we need to start differently this year, and mid-year, if it's working, if we need to change anything going forward. The greatest hurdle, I believe, though, is that it's very difficult to make up that much ground in one school year. So we often offer for them to be retained. They really don't like to do that, but that may be an option. And that's why it's important to have those meetings several times a year so that you don't shock them and surprise them that the child just did not make enough growth in order to go to the next grade level.
And that's actually, I think, to get off, I don't want to get too far off topic with the questioning, but I think that's very important too, setting real life expectations as well, because sometimes the parents come in thinking that 1 year or one semester or whatever is going to do the trick, and sometimes it is needful to extend the program. What I like to say, the CI, the continuous improvement, it has to be slow and controlled, and those things take time. And the things that I always tell my students, the things that take time always last the longest. So that's amazing. So I guess question number 3 is I guess you kind of already answered, which is, what strategies do you use to track and assess the progress of the students with IEPs, and how do you adjust interventions based on their individual goals? Which you kind of basically said you track it with making sure you're transparent and setting those meetings, those 6-week meetings with the parents, as well with the professionals that are on site, and the additional resources you have there, and then of course
the pacing, right, and the pacing testing. So they're tested 3 times a year. So I use those testing scores to predict how they will kind of where they start on their own individual work, right? But in class settings, of course, I'm teaching grade levels, so their grade level is tiered down. So even if I'm teaching, for example, decomposing fractions. So a lot of students can decompose a fraction into several different ways, but a student that's struggling with just the concept of fractions, their first, idea with them may be something very tactile, and then they'll just decompose using unit fractions, and we'll start from the very basic. So their class practice will look different from another student's class practice, but until we get them up to where the other students are. And again, the goal setting, you may not get to where somebody can just look at a fraction and know how to decompose that in several different ways, where you just already know, I'm going to go down to the unit fraction, which takes a little bit longer, but at least they'll understand how to get an answer to answer the 4th grade question. And that's the idea. Remember, these students are grade levels behind because it wasn't called the EIP. It's not really designed to catch them up. It's to fill the gaps.
Yeah.
But if they don't put in the work in the earlier grades, by the time they get to 4th grade, where I am, it's very difficult. They should start that process much earlier, like in kindergarten and 1st grade, identifying if there is an issue in learning and if there's a gap, it needs to be filled in the summer months.
Absolutely.
To be ready for the next school year.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up too, because some of it doesn't always have to happen now, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to explain sometimes to the parents, is that schoolwork is schoolwork, but homework is homework, and there's everyday tasks that can be done to really enhance their learning. I, for instance, like to use change, like bring your kids shopping with you and have them help you break down a receipt. Hey, this is receipt. Well, how much did they charge me on my for taxes? And then let them know. I mean, because I like to say that, you know, fractions are pretty much is nothing but change. It's just coins, you know, and it's the same thing with percent. So if you take the per off, it just makes sense. Just makes a bunch of coins. So that's cool.
That's right.
And that's something they can
Exactly.
interactively do with their kids. I mean, because kids always want something bought for them. They want a piece of candy or they want something. So using that as a moment to just kind of and that helps the teacher, I think, as well. So
Absolutely. And it helps the student. You know, everybody wins in that. Even you were thinking about things to do at home, video game scores. So if your child wins, he needs to score, and you get a score. Well, how much did you beat me by? That's subtraction. Also, just in playing games, chess, because not all students are sports related. Because I would tell them, well, how many points would you have needed to have won? That's just, you know, really good one. Or how many points per, if I scored 7 points per quarter by the end of the game, how many points would I have? That's multiplication. Just using what they are. If they're athletes, using sports. If they're gamers, using the points or the coins or whatever they collect. And if they're like chess players, are very, because we forget that these students, just because they have an EIP doesn't mean they have a strong suit somewhere else. Most of the time, I'm finding that they're EIP math, they're strong in reading, and vice versa. So using chess and how many moves did it take for you to win, and things like that. But
yeah, I'm similar the same way. Especially with the gamers, like I'll tell them, hey, you have 4 things you're supposed to do to complete this mission, and you complete 1 of 4 of them, you know, and stuff like that. And even sometimes when you turn the game on, it'll say, hey, you're 63% or the way through this game. So they're actually always seeing this stuff. It's just they're not attaching it to what they're learning in school sometimes. And I understand because they're trying to detach. I'm playing a game. I ain't trying to learn nothing. So
statistics show students learn better through play, especially in the younger years. That's why they have all those play centers in the pre-K and K, because it really shows you that there's a lot of learning and brain function, hand-eye coordination, and being able to recall. Recall is huge when you're dealing with reading, because knowing words, and I've seen that word before, and now I know what it means. And then you can do synonyms and synonyms and different kinds of words, because now I have that root word, I can add another word to it. But if we're not making those connections early in life, it makes it very difficult for them to catch up later.
Yeah, I think that's where I sometimes even in our environment too, you know, letting them see how important it is when like the root words, because there's compound words afterwards, not just the ed and the ing, but sometimes, like you said, the prefix, the suffix, and then again, and then sometimes, well, I always have to remind our students, like, we don't speak English per se, we speak American. So there's a couple of words in the English language or slash American language that have multiple dual meanings, and so that's and that's fun. So we have a thing called the Look It Up Club. So we make sure, hey, if we don't know it, we're gonna look it up. And when we look it up, and when we and that's again, that's the tactile learning. When they take the action of looking it up, it just helps it stick a little better than just asking me or asking Siri or Google what it means, and then you're gonna dump that information because you think you see how easy it was to access it. You can just ask again, and you never retain. So. Yeah. So can you share like a specific success story? I mean, without, you know, giving names or anything like that, where your approach to the IEP process had a significant positive impact on the student's academic or personal growth?
Okay. I can recall a specific student who, at the beginning of the school year, very nervous, not willing to try a whole lot, and even in small group, just not seeing a lot of growth. But sitting down and getting to know the student, realizing what the strengths were, that particular student didn't even know she had strengths. So meeting her there and then using that strength to help strengthen some of the other areas. She happened to not be strong in math because she didn't think she could be strong in math. But when she realized that there was math in everyday life, so giving her tasks helped. That was a strategy that I used. She became like the timekeeper, which everything I gave her was purposefully had numbers on it to get her more comfortable with numbers. It was even that significant where she was intimidated by numbers. So, and then just reminding her large numbers were just small numbers put together. A lot of reinforcement, but the one thing that I think benefited her most in small group was letting her see that she had already seen it before. And that helped her tremendously. So she was making connections in the hallway, in the cafeteria, in the library, on the playground when we played kickball, the bases, first, second, third, you know, ordinate, just knowing that 3 came after 2. It was really that. Her deficit was so great. But once we turned that light on, she started seeing numbers in a whole different way, and that helped her tremendously. Now, did she, you know, proficiently, test out of fourth grade? No, but now she knows how she learns and can look for strategies for herself, and that's the goal, giving them strategies to be successful on their own, even when the teacher's not there.
That is
And
cool.
that made her so, she was so empowered, and I felt so happy for her. So she moved on, and I would think that she would be doing well now, just because she now sees that there's a strategy for her.
And what you did too, which was kind of, it's almost it was just really an impact that I heard. Just what I heard is like when you gave her the task or you gave her a job or an assignment, it boosts her confidence, and she has a responsibility now, and she has a sense of, okay, I have to do this. Mrs. Long is relying on me, and that not just to please the teacher, of course. It's not superficial, but when they have that, I think that sense of responsibility, like you were saying, I can see that was probably something too, because she probably hasn't had that before. Nobody's ever entrusted her with something that she feels is important, and it's going to benefit not just my teacher, but it's going to help her with the class, and the class can see, and man, and socially, I'm sure that opened her up a little bit as well.
Absolutely, because she's the timekeeper, and now they're depending on her, and then she makes friends that she didn't know she had. Questions like, how much time do we have left? And they're looking at her like, well, please, tell us how much time we have left.
Because they took our cell phones from us. We have to trust you now. They took all of our stuff from us.
Don't let us. And then just feeling, I don't know, you're right, feeling needed and important and valued, even if I have a deficit. A lot of times, those students that get pulled for EIP services or have a small group, they kind of feel like, well, I'm less. No, you're learning in a different way. And then giving them jobs, I think, is really making them know that they're valuable. They're valuable, but they need to know it.
Outstanding. Well, I got a few more, and that way we can push through this, because I do have I'm gonna get on that meeting at 5:30. But so here's one: how do you stay current with like the best practices, laws, regulations related to the specific, special education and IP process to ensure the compliance and the quality of service for students? Because every teacher course is individual and has their own methods, but you still have to stay within the certain parameters and certain guidelines. And there is a fence line, invisible fence line you have to stay within. So, what do you do to kind of stay current with that?
Okay, my district offers professional development courses for free. So going on there and taking those professional development courses, even if they're outside of my scope of teaching, because I only teach math and science, but if I can take a reading course on how to bridge gaps in phonics and things like that. So taking those courses, also collaborating with the other teachers in the building, that's huge, because some may have a student I haven't had the ability of teaching before, and this is a different kind of, I've tried every technique I know and it's still not working. I will go and find another teacher in the building who may give me some, I've tried this. And we do have an autism unit in our school, and she is amazing. So I can go and just ask her if she has any manipulatives, any books, she's good with stickers, so she taught me about that. But just any ideas on how to reach a specific student if I'm struggling with that, or just to get ideas to put in my pocket for later if I get another student. Collaborating with other teachers and taking those professional development courses are huge.
And that's pretty cool too. First of all, that the fact that they have it, if they make it available to you, but also too that you're, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but you're humble and accepting enough to realize I can't know everything, so I can rely on other people's expertise and maybe tricks of the trade that they've picked up over time, and again, like you said, the familiarity they may have with a previous student that will give you an insight, almost like when you're talking to the parents, like, you live with these kids, you would know what I don't know, so help me help them. And so that's pretty cool. So in what ways also do you promote include? Oh, actually, no, you've already answered that, because the inclusivity and the support for the students. You do the small group, and that's huge, because a lot of schools will sometimes tend to put them all in one cloud. They kind of alienate them, put them off into the side. And I think, and me personally, I believe socially that's not effective at all. But when I see that happening, it saddens me, because it's like, man, you're taking them away from. They still are going to have to learn that other way as well, or at least part of it.
Exactly right.
So and then when they come back and class is over, or they have to try and get, they're playing. It's like they're already trying to catch up. but it's like you're tying their shoes together so that they can't, so that they got to hop instead of skip. And it's a little it's a little bothersome to me, but that's another whole topic.
And then having them in the class, so after whole group, which is the first 20 minutes of class where we're learning either a new content or freshening up on an old content, everybody goes to small group. So it's not like just the EIP students. So the students that are even, whatever your level in the class is, everybody goes to small group. So if it's an advanced group, that group is just I'm going to give them content to try to make them even stronger. So those students that get to see, okay, I'm not the only one getting small group. No, everybody's getting it. And that helps them also to not feel like maybe I'm not as strong as somebody else. Everybody gets it, and they need to see that in the classroom.
That's amazing. And honestly, you just kind of inadvertently answered my other question, which was how do you handle the challenges or conflicts that may arise with the IEP process, which is you reach out and you utilize the tools that are given to you and some of the extra resources, as well as both shall I say the human capital that you're tapping into, but also doing your research and not just kind of a side gig. I want to congratulate you on pursuing your doctorate, which is also that extension of going towards that next level to find out what else can I do, what's my next step to be better for these students.
Right.
So and then I guess the last three are kind of more general. It says so. How do you differentiate the instruction to meet the diverse learning needs of the students with your classroom, and has this approach contributed to the overall increase in the students' learning and their grades?
That's 100% going to be either AI or technology. So the technology is designed so that you can do that. I know textbooks are just written as a textbook, you see. So if I were just using books or paper, I couldn't do that. But certain programs like boom cards, for example, I can pull a boom card for fourth grade multiplication. That'll give me 3 different levels. So I can assign each student a level based on where they are. So they're all doing the same assignment, but tiered at their level. Also, iReady Math. So iReady starts them off wherever they test into, but they grow as they do the lessons. It pushes them forward. That's another one that's independent and can be done at home or on their own. So that's to me, the most effective way is using the technology to do it for you.
And math-wise, I've seen Khan Academy's made some huge strides in the last actually just within the last 6 months in their adaptation of AI, and because they already had a large library, a huge, like a colossal library of help tools. But now they're kind of revamping them and applying more AI strategies as well, adaptive learning, and again, because it's not just I can pull down this video and do it. Now I can interact with it, and the AI can learn how many times you missed that question, and then it can and then sometimes the AI now is they can take the quiz multiple times, but what it'll do, simply just rearrange the questions so they're not memorizing like the order of the question. So the first one was A, the second one was B, and so it kind of changes their and that's another thing too I've noticed, but not to get off topic. But the last two are pretty basic too, and Ken, what you just mentioned too, that one, so discussing a specific teaching strategy or method you've implemented, which is of course the AI. And last question, and then I will let you go about your day, and that is how do you utilize the data and the assessments that you've gotten? Like I'm sure there's, when you assess and you have to put either a letter or a number or a level that they've achieved, because like you said, you have your starting point and then you have your up or down. So how do you utilize the data and assessments to identify areas of improvement for the students, and then again, what proactive measures do you take to address these areas, resulting in the enhancement of their learning and the outcome?
Okay, so every week, at the end of the week, we do a 10-question assessment on what we've gone over that week and previous standards that they may not have mastered. So we keep testing till they master it. So every week, the whole class takes a 10-question assessment. Based on how they perform on an assessment, tells me what we're going to do the next week in small group. So if you only miss the multiplication, that's all you're going to get in small group. That way you're not wasting time reteaching something that they already know. So weekly, they're reassessed, and you may move groups depending on how you perform on the previous week's quiz. So you can't, I mean, that keeps you from going a long period of time without assessing and knowing and just wasting time on strategies that they've already mastered. So, and then they're tiered into 5 different and a half colors. So red, black, gray, yellow, green. Green being the ones that are probably advanced or above grade level. And they're, when they go into Canvas, where we put our assignments, they'll find their assignment based on their color. And those are the assignments they practice during the week. I love that color scheme, because sometimes a number or a letter grade can be a little discouraging, but colors are so neutral. Yeah, man, that's amazing, man. I'm excited. I guess this is my last question is almost kind of a personal one when it comes down to, because I've run into some challenges from time to time that I'm always looking for ways around, or at least ways through. And that is, do you have a pre-assembled or like a what's the word I would use? It would be a more of a template for a rubric, or is it something that you're kind of, is it out of the box, or have you created one of your own, like a rubric to kind of to do these assessments? We collaborate as a grade level on the assessments, but no, not necessarily for the rubric, but for assignments based. No, I think I kind of just do it as I go along, but because I keep track of my data, I can look and see it how it's progressing, if that's what you're asking, like how I'm assessing, and what questions I'm choosing to use. Is that what you're asking? More so just the organization and the storage of the data, like the data entry portion. Like when you're so I mean, like that's what I'm saying. I don't have a predetermined template. I kind of built my own sort of list of, like a bullet point list, and then we'll go. Okay. And see, that's cool. So I think too that maybe other teachers may have other methods. Maybe they use, circles or squares or whatever. It's just more of again, just assess how do you recalling that data and having it in an organized fashion so that it's easy enough to be able, because sometimes if you want to just share with the parent, or again with other professionals as you meet, it has to be something that everybody can see and ultimately kind of understand, kind of on first sight, or at least have minimal explanation about, because that's sometimes they don't understand the method, and so you're spending more of the time, instead of discussing how can we make this student better, we're discussing, okay, what does that mean, and what does that mean, and what does this mean, and what does that mean. It's like, okay, all right, so let's go ahead through, like, provide a key at the bottom, like if you see these are the colors. And so, but I like the colors is awesome. And that's really almost like in a sense like a traffic light. Hey, slow down, stop, go, stand still kind of stuff, or this is where we're at. And and so, and again, even with like accounting and other stuff like that, in the black and the red, whatever. So I love the color choices. So I may hit you up another time and get some of that. Yeah, and the master copy, of course, I would keep like in a binder, but each student has their own folder. And so if a parent wants to know specifically how their child is being graded or what, that you pull out the folder, and it was on the cover of the folder tells you these are all of the things that your child needs to meet, and from proficient to beginning, this is where they fall. So if they ever wonder, well, she did all of her work and she did it all correct, yes, but she did it all on a second grade level. So if I'm grading her on a 4th grade scale, that's a C, which is an A for her, and you should celebrate her. And that's the conversation that needs to happen with the parent when they're used to saying, oh, my child got all A's, yes, but you got to kind of put that A in perspective. Yeah. And I think that's cool too, what you're doing. I mean, and you've worked in the Christian school system too, so you've seen the congratulations slip is a real big booster for not just the student but the parent. But then the stars, when you give the student their own star and they get to pin that star to their own little progress board, and they get to, it's almost like a little mini trophy that they can take home, and then they can see their all success. Yeah, even if it's 1 point gain. Yeah, I love it. Well, sister, I really appreciate what you shared with me. This is awesome. And I have more than enough, man. I almost want to do a follow-up where because I'm sitting here learning myself, and again, some of these AI tools, I definitely would love for you to email me those, so that I want to just maybe add them to because I'm trying to start up something as well called Friday Fun Day, where we can start, as long as we get our necessary goals done, mainly for the week, we can use a portion of the Friday
to just, I've done it from time to time. To let's all I let we all helped with a prompt to create an image, that was, about their favorite Bible character and stuff like that. So just, again, using the AI and letting everybody insert a piece of information, and then I myself will be in control of the prompting itself, but utilizing everyone's input and then and putting it in a fashion, and then they get to see this finished product, or at least, what they've all collaborated on, and it helps bring the class together, and also gets everybody's perspective on things and their views. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to want to know some of those ones that you were mentioning before. I think you said about these the boom cards, and what was the and then there was another one for I think it was a math one. Oh man, but iReady math. Okay, yes. So I'm definitely going to I'm gonna be perusing those this weekend over a cup of coffee and some cookies. So, but I thank you so much. I know you're busy, but if there's anything else we can do to assist, I definitely would love to help out, and I'm definitely going to be picking your brain some more, and again, congratulations on Teacher of the Year, and congratulate your students for their progress, and I hope they know how blessed and favored they are to have someone who actually cares and wants the best for them without any ulterior motive. So I thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And